Okay, welcome back. In this screencastify video, I'm going to describe how to estimate one, the cash flow category, and two, the cash flow amounts. And so in the cash flow category, there are three stages to a project's life. The acquisition stage, that's where you get the project ready to go into service to the customer. The operating stage, that's where the project is up and running. And then oftentimes it's a continuing value rather than a disposition value. And that's basically to account for any remaining years in the project's life. And so what you're trying to do with this exercise is it's kind of like deciding what is needed if you're going to bake cookies. If you're going to bake cookies, you're going to need some flour, some chocolate chips, M&Ms, some sugar, and stuff like that. If you're going to remodel a house, you need tools and materials, lumber, and stuff like that. If you're going to paint a room, you need paint. In other words, whatever you decide to do as a group, then you are going to have costs associated with this. And so what I have here in this spreadsheet is an illustration of Chipotle putting in drive-throughs at 1,100 of its stores at an average cost of 500,000 a piece. Let me make this a little larger so that you can see this. So in the acquisition stage cash flow, the again, this would be year zero. You would spend $500,000 per store times 100,000 stores, $550 million to do that. Because there would not be any land, I just put zero in there. I left this in here, in case your project involves something that involves land. The equipment, I have extra cash registers, the speakers and the receivers there out in the parking lot with the menus and stuff like that. I have those, I think, at $10,000 a store. Now, $60,000 a store times 1,100 stores that we were going to remodel and put this in at. Before the project gets up and running, you probably want the customers to know that you're doing this. And so there's probably some promotion or pre-opening advertising of $1.5 million. I mean, that's not going to buy a lot in the advertising world. The employees training I have in there with 6 employees per store, times $20 per hour, times 10 hours. In other words, some of those employees have to be trained in how to work the drive-through, and that's a little different than that, times the 1,100 stores. And so when you multiply all that together, you have the 6 employees times $20 an hour times 10 times 1,100, you get the $1,320,000. Now, again, in these numbers, there's no precise or necessarily right answers. There are acceptable answers. In other words, if you left out employee training, I'd wonder why you did that, because there would be some employee training, but could this thing be as high as 10 million? Yes. I mean, the exact answer isn't as important as the fact that you modeled it and then gave some thought to the amount. And so then you would need some additional working capital. If you look at Chipotle's existing income statement, not income statement, balance sheet, you would take the accounts receivable, inventory, add them together, subtract the accounts payable and accounts receivable, and you see that Chipotle does not have a lot in working capital because their only inventory is really the fresh ingredients, and they have to keep those fresh, not frozen. And so you wouldn't expect to see a lot of inventory on hand at any Chipotle restaurant. And that 7% is where Chipotle currently is. So again, since you are asked to present a project to Chipotle's management, you should use their income statement, balance sheet as a guide in predicting these numbers. And so I put that in at 7%. You'll see in a minute that at 7%, then off the first year sales, remember you got to have working capital before the fact, off the first year sales would be $9,250,000. All of that money would be needed that first year. The second year, that balance would grow to $20,790,000 for an additional or incremental investment in working capital of $1,540,000. Then we move to the operating stage. In the operating stage, the reason you're going to put those drive-throughs in is to increase the sales at Chipotle. And so what I did there is I took, I think it was a 10% increase. Hold on a minute. Let me just go ahead and, now it's a 5%. Sorry about that. 5% increase in sales. And I used the last annual sales number for Chipotle of $5.5 billion. That's billion with a B. If you start selling additional food, beverage, drink, you're going to have the food, well, not beverage and drink, beverage and packaging. What I did is I went to the income statement and looked at what that amounts to at Chipotle. That's about 32, not 32, but 36% of the sales number, and then labor's about another 24. When you take 36 plus 24, you get 60%. So I modeled the variable costs at 60%. And again, what I did here with the additional sales, I failed to mention that a minute ago, is I started it out at 5%, and I have it growing at 8% across the years. 60%, I just left that as constant. In fact, if you go back across the years in Chipotle, they have pretty good handle on their expenses and their price increases, and that usually does average very close to 60% in any given year. Moving on to the next one, additional fixed costs for the drive-through. What I have there is additional property taxes and additional insurance. There will probably be additional insurance if you're having cars drive up by your building. And then naturally, if you improve your building, the property taxes would probably increase. So I have that at $11 million. Depreciation, I basically have the building depreciated across 40 years. So that'd be 2.5% per year. Depreciation on equipment, I have the equipment basically wearing out over 8 years. So that'd be 12.5% per year. Again, those are simplifications of reality, but they're close enough for what we're doing. The tax rate, I used a 28% tax rate. That would be the federal tax at 21 plus an additional state and local taxes to bring it up to 28%. On the disposition value, I have that at 5 times the continuing value for year 8. And I hate to shrink this down too much because you might not be able to see it, but man, that's probably too small for the video. So anyhow, I have it out here at 5 times the operating stage cash flows for year 8. Let me go back here and see if I can zoom this out a little bit, and then move this back so that we can see more of the, okay. So then you go down to the actual cash flow estimation. These were all assumptions at the top. In other words, I don't know if I said that, but I use that as a continuing value. In other words, you're going to value the continuing operation at 5 times as last forecasted year. When you get to the acquisition stage cash flows, you remember that cash flowing out of your pocket is negative, cash flowing into your pocket is positive. So you would spend $550 million on the buildings. You would spend nothing on the land because you're not buying additional land in this project. Cost of the equipment is $66 million. The promotion or pre-open advertising, 1.5 million. Employee training, 1.32 million. The additional working capital is $19,250,000 for a total of $638 million. So again, in the other videos, I kind of show you how to the actual mechanics of multiplying and getting the working capital number. But again, if you look up here, what you're going to do is take 7% of sales. That gives you the initial balance. The initial balance has to be put in the year zero amount. And then as sales grow, working capital would grow, and any additional amount would have to be put in by the business owner into the project. Okay. Your additional sales, what I did there is I modeled, I forget exactly what my assumption there was. Hold on a minute. I'll just click on that. Oh, I'm sorry, it was from above. The $275,000, that's a 5% of Chipotle's 500 or $5.5 billion in sales last year. And then again, I have that growing at 8%. I believe I said that a minute ago. So 275,000, that's a positive number because that's inflows from sales. Variable cost is just going to grab the 60% above number times the sales number. Additional fixed cost just brings down the cost from above. Depreciation, you're going to multiply the depreciation rate by the cost of the building. Your depreciation on equipment, again, the depreciation rate on the equipment times the cost of the equipment. When you bring all that down, you're going to get taxable income. When you add those, your taxes, again, you're going to take the rate of 28% times the number above. This gives you after-tax income. You're going to add back depreciation because remember, depreciation is the cash flow actually occurred in year zero when you bought the building and the equipment. We subtract depreciation for tax reasons because the IRS doesn't allow us to expense it up front. And so we expense it over the years, and that reduces our taxes. But if we've already counted it in year zero, it'd be wrong to count it twice, and that's why we add it back. So this gives you operating stage cash flow of $77,440,000. Your disposition or continuing value cash flow is out here in year 8. And oops, I shouldn't be showing you those net present values and stuff like that. But when you total all of these, in other words, your disposition or continuing value, your operating stage, and your acquisition stage, when you total those, you get $638 million out as an initial outlay into this project. When the business is up and running and selling around $300 million in merchandise, net everything else, it comes down to $75 million, $82 million, $88 million, 96, 103, 112, 121. And then with the continuing value, this comes to $803 million in year 8. So that's kind of how you would estimate the cash flows for a project that involved building and equipment and then increased sales, no lost sales as a result of building and equipment. There are other projects out there where you would invest in buildings and rather than have equipment, and rather than have increased sales, you could have decreased labor. And so that would be modeled the same way, except the labels are going to be different. In other words, if you were going to put in kiosk where the customer orders on the kiosk, that would probably speed up the line a little bit and might increase sales a little bit, but actually it probably would increase sales. I'm going to take back what I said. if you had kiosk like McDonald's are doing now, and you would have some increase in sales, you would naturally have some variable costs associated with those sales, and you'd probably have some labor savings because you wouldn't need as many people taking the order, and you could actually route it to two make lines, and you could probably speed up the service during the lunch hour, which is Chipotle's most profitable time. So that would be a project that involved equipment. And then on another video, which I'm, you know, uh, well, I'm going to attach to the same assignment here, is where you introduce a new menu item. In other words, a new menu item could be something like a vegan option, a vegan menu or something, where what you're doing there is you're really replacing one sales with another sale. In other words, there could be some people who go to Chipotle right now and order steak or chicken burritos, and instead they would order a vegan type protein. And I do understand that Chipotle has that, but again, they're trying to move healthier and healthier, and so this would be something in addition to that. And so what you're going to have there are increased sales and decreased sales offsetting, and you would hope that your increased sales net of cost would be more than your lost sales net of cost. But that's a different video. This is one where you would have depreciation. The other one's not going to have depreciation because no equipment is involved. Okay, well, thank you for watching. Bye.